delivered by Sudarshini. She is a teenager devotee and the good daughter of His Grace Radha Rajbi Hari Prabhu and Alka Mataji. In order to encourage teens to read and present the scriptures, so she is going to give the today's lecture. With that, please welcome her by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Sudarshini, over to you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So, I don't know how often you get to see a 14-year-old sitting in front of you, delivering, well, a kind of discussion on Bhagavad Gita, but today will be an experience. So, I'm very grateful to Satyasar Prabhuji and Jai Subhadra Mataji for giving me this opportunity to serve. And so today's shloka is from the Bhagavad Gita. It's verse number 14, chapter 2, 2.14. I will give you a moment to pull it out. Okay. Offered water? I see it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitushna sukha dukkhada. Agama payino nityas. Tam stitikshasva bharata. Okay. Does anyone want to recite? Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitoshna sukha dukkhada. Agama payino nityas. Nam stitikshasva bharata. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitoshna sukha dukkhada. Agama payino nityas. Tam stitikshasva bharata. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Shitoshna sukha dukkhada. Agama payino nityas. Tam stitikshasva bharata. Okay, can somebody read the translation?
O son of Kundi, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in the due course are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from the sense perception of Sion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So in this verse we can see there is a standard example given of summer and winter seasons, and also an applied example of happiness and distress. Okay, so before we compare them, we must see what's common. So firstly, we can see the topic of control. So we can't really control the summer and winter seasons. They come on their own will and then they go. Like to say that I say, hey, summer, can you come in 2 days? That's not going to work. And so they come on their own will. Basically, we can't control them. And similarly, they're inevitable. They will come. We know that in a year, summer and winter seasons come, even though we don't know when they will come. But we also know they pass, like they're temporary. And so you must have heard the quote, this too shall pass. So this is borrowed from this verse actually, because they describe the temporary nature of the seasons. Of course, it's not limited to the seasons. When we're applying it to happiness and distress, we see we cannot really control them. So this makes us see happiness and distress more like a situation rather than something which is variable or which is in our control. So, and they're inevitable because we've acquired a human body, and the human body, because of it being material, it comes under the dualities, and we will experience happiness and distress. So, but they're temporary, and we've seen that. Like, I'm sure we must have went through a lot of things before. We must have went through, like, I used to be very nervous when I would have exams, but they pass. And okay, so since they're inevitable, we learn to tolerate the weather. Like, we don't really start saying things at the weather. Say if it starts raining, it's not really practical to just look at the weather and be like, well, why did it start raining? I wasn't planning that. We wear a raincoat or wear an umbrella. Well, not wear, carry it. And we go and do our work. So, since the beginning, we've seen that in chapter 1, Arjuna was very distressed, and he put up a few reasons as to why he didn't want to fight. And so he gave many reasons why he didn't want to fight. Basically, he was lacking a purpose. And we need a purpose in order to actually work with a higher inspiration. And so, of course, Arjuna stated his reasons to Krishna, and then he surrendered himself because he said, well, Krishna, I can't really see anything, so you tell me. Give me a purpose so that I can fight. And so Krishna, basically the teachings began with Krishna telling Arjuna, well, Arjuna, wise people, they don't lament for those who are gone or that which comes and that which is gone. So why they do not lament is then shared in the next verse, and that's because we are all eternal. So it doesn't really matter. So, but then a question can be arised, well, if we are eternal, we see it that around us, people are dying. So then in verse 13, Krishna clears that actually it's not the body who we are the ones in the body. And so it's the body which is dying. And interestingly, in that verse, death is not called mrityu, like a full stop or something. It's actually called dehantara, which means change of body. And it's logical because if the body is dead, it's made up of chemicals. We see them in laboratories and we see cells in slides. So the body's already dead. And we as souls, if we are eternal, then that which is eternal cannot die. So what actually dies at the time of death? That's a paradox, right? So that's why it's been called Dehantar, because it's a change of body. And so during the course of our lifetime, we go through changes from boyhood to youth to old age, and then definitely death after that. So all of these are changes, and then a major change comes. And so now Arjun can have the question. So basically Krishna has explained this, that we are eternal and it's the body that's dying, it's not you. It's not Bhishma Pitama or Dronacharya. So Arjuna can say, well, okay, if I accept that Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya, they're actually eternal, then the change which their body is going through when I'm killing them, that is causing me pain. And that hurts me. So what am I supposed to do with that? And even if I actually logically, philosophically, scripturally accept that I'm not the body, but still, if somebody comes and pinches me, it's going to hurt. And so basically a question can be arised, how to actually be situated in this mode of, realizing that we are the souls and not the body. And so that's why Krishna says that, oh Arjuna, you learn to tolerate these, because actually these changes, they're not temporary. They're not eternal, they're temporary. They belong to the body. And so here we can see that the temporary shouldn't actually distract you from the eternal, and therefore you should learn to tolerate it. Now, tolerance is actually a very critical value which is required for achieving something long term. And so to achieve our purpose by performing in higher modes of inspiration as well. And so basically the purpose is something which we have in our mind already before we go out to actually do the work. So it's the intention we have. And when we are doing it, we have we are performing in different modes of inspiration. So what inspires me to execute this goal, to actually get to that purpose? What am I doing? What is inspiring me? And mainly there are 4 kinds of inspirations. Basically, there's inspiration of fear, there's an inspiration of desire, inspiration of duty, and then inspiration of transcendental love. So, like, we can understand this through an analogy. Like, if, say, some student studies, I feel like this is what would be relatable to me. Now, if somebody studies with the inspiration of fear, then they'll say, oh, I study because I need to pass my exams. And you can clearly see that that person would actually look very tensed all the time, because they're doing it with the fear. And if somebody has an inspiration of desire, then they'll study because, I want to get so-and-so profession, or I want to get qualified for so-and-so degree. But the catch with desire is that when it doesn't get fulfilled, there's a distress and it becomes unbearable. And then if somebody does it with duty, that means they already have something higher in their mind, but they're executing that task because it's their duty. So they're not really attached to it, but they do it because like a matter of formality or something. And then, so if there's a student who says, oh, I just study because, I have to do it, but I have other things in mind as well. So even if they don't achieve something which they were which is really desirable, but they'll still be satisfied. And of course, because they're doing it with a inspiration of duty, they will do their best, but they'll be detached from it. And when it comes to love, nobody loves studying, so I feel like our analogy stops here. But when there's an inspiration of love, the activity is continuous and it's spontaneous. And that happens on the transcendental platform, when we're not really doing things which are material in nature. So I feel no analogy which is pertaining to our material lives would fit with this inspiration. So what to tolerate? According to this verse, we see that sensory perception has been mentioned as something to tolerate. And why should we tolerate is because we need to focus and perform in higher modes of inspiration. So again, tolerance is many times considered as passivity or impotence, but there's a subtle difference, and we'll get to that in a minute. Actually, no, more than a minute. So sensory stimuli. Basically, what's considered enjoyment in this world is, at its deep level, at its root level, is actually more and more sensory stimuli. And it's not something we regularly hear. But when we say that we are under illusion, it means that we consider ourselves to be happy, but we're actually just feeding the senses more and more. But the senses are like thankless masters, and so it's not really realistic to actually satisfy the senses, because they never get satisfied. And so, of course, we know this, that to actually focus on something, we need to set different parameters. Basically, if I have to focus on a certain work, say if I have to, I don't know, read a book, then I'll have to avoid distractions from outside. And it's not that any noise will, like, we can stop every noise, but in order to actually focus on reading, I will have to somehow tolerate the distraction. So here we see that the common misconception of tolerance, that it's something more passive or something which is where we become really inactive, we give inactive responses, or we're really just becoming impotent. We're not actually fighting, not really fighting, but not actually giving a response which is necessary in a situation, is kind of defeated, because tolerance is something we always need to focus. And so there are mainly 4 kinds of tolerance. I'll go a little into that. So the first one is called Veg Sahishnata. It means that you tolerate the urges. And so there are urges of the senses, and then there's urges of desire, urges of the mind, anger. And so basically, if we do not tolerate them, we cannot actually focus on what is needed at that time. And there's Dvandva, which means dualities. And dualities is also mentioned in this verse because dualities arise when they come in contact with the senses. So because the nature of the soul is not to be dual, to be under the dualities. The soul is characterized by eternal blissful knowledge. And so you don't see any happiness or distress in the nature of the soul. So definitely, and if you see that if we didn't have any senses, say we didn't have the sense of touch, sense of hearing, sense of sight, smell, and taste. So we really wouldn't know anything about this world. I mean, we would just have a body, and then the subtle body, which means we have intelligence, mind and false ego. So knowing that you are the body is not enough. So in a way, senses are very helpful in letting us know about our surrounding. And so basically, they are the root cause which connect us to the world. And so basically, when the senses, they come, it's inevitable that happiness and distress will come. And why they're not in our control is because they're based off of our previous activities. And so we have then Paramatta Sahishnata, which means tolerating others' opinions. When we are working in a group, we have to tolerate others' opinions to actually work together. And so basically, many times, it's opinions, when they clash, it causes a conflict. And I need to stop saying "and" so many times. I just realized that. Okay. So opinions are something which clash many times, and we need to tolerate them. And then there's also Par Utkarsh Sahishnata, which means tolerating others' success. Because everyone has their own abilities, and everyone is unique in their own way. So to say that the definition of one's success wouldn't necessarily always be what our success is supposed to be. And everyone has different talents, different abilities. So we need to also see that. Okay, so let's talk about what tolerance is not. So many times tolerance is confused or misinterpreted as passivity. Basically, people say anything at you, they do anything with you, and you're just accepting it, like, I'm tolerant. So whatever they say with me, whatever they do with me, it's fine, because I'm tolerant. And that's not necessarily tolerance, that's actually passivity, because you're not giving an active response. You're not being dutiful. So we must also see that tolerance is actually a very conscious stage. You're using your brain when you're being tolerant. And I'll come to that. So it's considered passivity because externally it appears as if the person is not doing anything. And so it feels as if that person is actually just, in a sense, dumb. And then impotence. So why tolerance cannot be impotence and is actually a sign of power is because it's not really powerlessness, because you're not becoming weak when you say you're tolerant. You're actually letting your mind focus on the thing which is important at that time. And another reason why it cannot be impotence is because if you see in the previous verses, Krishna actually chastised Arjuna, and he said that, how are you letting this degrading impotence cover you? So certainly we see that Krishna is actually not in support of this idea of impotence. So powerlessness. So let's see what tolerance actually is. So tolerance is for focus. It's not necessarily passivity. And it's also where you actually start accepting that there will be dualities. Because when the senses come in contact with their sense objects, certainly dualities will arise. So sometimes we will feel happy and sometimes we'll feel sad. So now a question can be raised that, so okay, I understand we need to tolerate distress. Like if I'm eating something very bitter, then okay, it makes sense that I'll tolerate it. But then if I'm eating a very delicious preparation, then what's the need to tolerate it? But basically, both of them, they act as a distraction because we really need to focus. And intellectual agility is also another aspect of focus, because you're allowing your intelligence to choose. And that's why I say tolerance is a very conscious stage, because you're being very active intelligently to actually choose that, okay, what is actually right for me at this time? And then based off of that, what are the disturbances right now which I have? And so not necessarily can we remove the disturbances. Say if it's, so we cannot necessarily remove disturbances. We need to learn to, in a sense, cooperate with them. And that is also a form of tolerance. Forgiveness is also a form of tolerance, because we are learning to, again, paramatta sahishnuta, you're learning to accept other people's opinions. But it's also, some people might not have the right opinion, but you learn to forgive them, and that's also a form of tolerance. And so is patience. Okay, So at the same time, tolerance is something where we're letting go of things which are anyways not in our control. So many times we feel mentally disempowered because we are facing with a not so palatable situation. And so what makes us feel very disempowered is that we see, well, nothing's in my control. And our mind has a tendency to actually really elaborate what's not in our control. And so it will make a huge fuss out of what we really cannot do. We really cannot change about something. And so tolerance lets us see what's actually in our control. So many times we see that when situations come out of our control, we start getting physical symptoms like sweating or shaking or hyperventilating. Some people, they faint. It depends on how severe it is. And so at that time, there's also something which we can do is where we can break our working time, which means where we are actively focusing. And so, yes. So we can see what is actually in our control at that time, and then we can learn to focus on that thing. And that's a form of tolerance. Like, say, there's a medically well-informed person, and so now they've got a disease, but since they're medically well-informed, they know about it, and that disease has very scary symptoms. And so, since that person knows about that problem, he'll see that, okay, well, having that disease, this symptom will come, and I can't really do anything about it. And at the same time, this is, okay, maybe this is not going to harm me that much, so let me focus on getting the treatment. And so this is, in a sense, this is the same case with us, because we, being eternal souls, having this conditioned body, we actually start identifying with the changes. And when we go through the changes, we have the tendency to resist them, or we sometimes even deny them. So that's not really the way out, because it's like how the medically well-informed person is just denying the symptoms and letting the case get worse. So we can say that we are well-informed in the sense we know the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita says that change is inevitable. So we must know that having a body, we will go through change. And having a body means we'll also experience the dualities. So to not resent them would be the best case out. But how do we learn to actually accept them? Or actually focus on a higher goal? So, in one sentence, this tolerance, this ability of tolerance, actually lessens our default resistance to change and doesn't make fairness the sole focus of our endeavor. And like, say there's a competition where there are athletes, and so you might want to make it as equal as possible. Like, make the race line just at the same point, and then, but you really can't change the inequalities at a whole level, because there might be some athletes which are taller, there might be some who have been practicing since a quite early age, or they may have been doing it since, they may have done courses on it. I don't know how you do courses on that though. But so we can't necessarily really make that competition equal, even if we try to. So that's something which is not in our control. And or if you were the head of a totalitarian government and you wanted to put equalities for everyone, you wouldn't actually be making an equality, you would be putting limits rather, because everyone is unique and they have unique opinions and they'll have different abilities. So in one sense you might be expecting too much from them, in another sense, and for another person you might be limiting their abilities. So to actually think that, oh, my situation can become fair, that's a very unrealistic expectation, because it's something unrealistic. We can't never make it let's see. Yes. So we cannot make the situation always favorable for us. And so we should not obsess over pursuing equalities. And another thing which we can see is how we should tolerate. So the first thing we can do is that we can remember that it's peripheral to our core being being the soul, and it's something which is related to our body, and it's also unavoidable, it's inevitable. It will come, but it will go at the same time. So seeing that, because we already see it's going to come and it's going to come and it's going to go, it's going to go. So we must see a purpose or seek for a goal which is actually above this. We must look for something which is more than that which comes and goes. So that's why we say that you should know about your being as a soul. And that's why you should serve Krishna, because he is the goal. And when you serve him, you're not necessarily doing an activity which comes and goes by our births in certain bodies. It's the activity of the soul. So it's something which never changes. And also we can tolerate by knowing that it lasts for a short time. It's not going to be there always. So in this relation, I'd like to quote another shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. It's 5.22. Yeah. So in that, Krishna says that an intelligent person, he will not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. And such pleasures, they have a beginning and end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. So what does the wise man do? And we know this, I'll come back to this verse. In the next verse, 2.15, Krishna says that somritatvaya kalpate, which means once he actually learns to tolerate. And you'll see in both the previous verse and the next verse, the word dhira is used. It means sober. So again, tolerance is a quality which is done in a conscious state. So it's never passive. And so basically we can see that Somritatvaya kalpate means he is to be considered liberated. And liberated basically means he just needs to quit this body and he'll be liberated. He'll be in the spiritual sky serving the Lord. And in another sense, it also means that that person is already liberated because they just need to quit the body. That's all that's left. And again, in 5.23, I'm sorry, I'm jumping here and there, but so Krishna says that before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and happy in this world. And so now we know that tolerance is, very beneficial. It helps us be stable, helps us be sober, actually. So if one actually wants to be considered a sober person who's making sober decisions, you actually need to tolerate a lot. And and 5.24, that talks about one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So here again, this thing is reinforced that the purpose shouldn't be something which comes under the jurisdiction of that which is temporary, that which comes and goes. Rather, it should be something which is within and which relates to the soul. Also, it means that it should be something which is, I think I covered that. It's eternal, basically. Now, okay, how much time do I have? 16? Maybe I can do that. Okay, so another aspect of sense perception is that while being in this body, not only are we in a sense distracted by happiness and distress, also there's an inclination to experience what is happiness through the senses, and that's called sense gratification, to try to enjoy the senses. So that's another aspect of sense perception. But as I said earlier, it's just more and more sensory stimulus, which is often considered as happiness. And so it's the problem of excess stimulation at the sensory level. Many times this example of, actually 3 examples are given for sense gratification. It's considered like a mirage. Now, most of us haven't physically experienced what a mirage is in a desert, but consider this: if it's like scorching heat above your head, and then the sands scorching hot, and all you can really think of is water at that time. And at a further distance, you see a really crystal, cool, clear reservoir of water. So you use up all your energy for it, and you make a dash for it, and then you reach there just to see that it's sand. So basically it's like a dead end. Or sometimes sense gratification is given the example of a dream. So there are two kinds of dreams. One is a night dream, and then so night dreams end, and we know that, we experience that, and we accept that. But then there's also a daydream, and daydreams are what we don't consider to be false, because it's a continuous dream. Like, I talked with you today, I shared a few plans, and I'll continue tomorrow. And then we'll talk about this tomorrow, and then we'll continue day after tomorrow. So it's a dream which has a continuation, but ultimately has a stop as well. So, and then the last example for sense gratification is given of an itch. It's given in the Srimad Bhagavatam that sensory stimulation, sense gratification is like an itch, because when you itch, it feels good, and then you itch more, and it feels better, and then you itch more, and then it starts bleeding. So you'll see that every time, in every case, there's an end to when we actually try to satisfy the senses. So who should we actually try to satisfy then? And so that's why we perform activities in devotional service, because this is actually a very built-in habit of trying to enjoy the senses, or trying to actually identify with the senses, rather I should say. And so that's why we begin with devotional practice. And today's verse is actually from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we discussed. It's very relevant in this case, because no matter where you are, you can still practice devotion. And it has the tendency to purify us, because it's the activity of the soul. And when we actually start flowing with it, it becomes spontaneous. Okay, so, I have 10 more minutes. Let's see what else I can talk about. We also see that Arjuna has been called by two names in this verse, Kaunteya and Bharata, basically meaning he's the son of Kunti and he's the descendant of Bharata. So both of these addresses, names of address, are very significant, because many times when you need to actually encourage someone, you don't really have to inflate their ego, or, you can just give a pat at their ego and just say, yeah, see, Arjun, you're from such a nice heritage, you come from such a great dynasty, and being that, you also carry a great responsibility. So, again, I'll come back to tolerance. It's something which helps us be responsible, because we keep small things small and focus on the big things. So many times we'll see, but what's the need to tolerate everything? Just go with the flow, But again, I'll come back. I'm just moving here and there. So we've seen that whenever we talk about senses, whenever we talk about satisfying the senses, it always reaches a dead end. And at this point, if there's an intelligent person, he'll be like, so what is there that doesn't reach a dead end? And that's why we have to actually see this. Yes. So that's why, in order to work in the higher modes of inspiration, we must learn to tolerate. And yeah, I feel like I'll stop here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sudarshini. It's a beautiful class. 14-year-old sitting in front of this many, very qualified adults and talking scriptures from Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, 14th verse. Absolutely amazing. Thank you, and it was a fantastic class. I mean, it's very philosophically, sastrically, and logically, it totally makes sense, and how the flow was super good. So thank you. So would you take some questions?
I'll try.
You'll try? Okay.
Yeah, Sudarshini, wonderful lecture. So I have a question. Like you said, we need to act in 4 different ways. Correct me if I understood right. So one is fear, desire, duty, and love.
Basically, these are different inspirations in which one can act.
Act.
Right. So if somebody's basically working out of the inspiration of fear, they're doing it just because there's a necessity. Like, there's a fear of survival. So that's why they're defending themselves. They're earning money just because they have to survive. Or there's a fear of, like I said, failing in class. So they're just doing it because they don't want to fail. So that's an inspiration of fear, and it's considered to be under the lower inspirations.
Oh.
And then there's the inspiration of desire, where you just do it because you want to do it, and if you don't want to do it, you don't do it. Does that
Yeah, my question is, that's correct. So question is like duty makes you detach from the result. That's what you said?
Well, when you do duty, you have something higher in you're focusing on something higher, and so you're not necessarily focused on the fruits of the activity.
Okay. So what would you recommend, like we need to perform with duty or love?
Well, okay, so there are some things when it comes to our material duties, we don't say that you do it, you can't really do it out of love, but the way you can actually get it on that level is that you do it for Krishna. So basically, you can offer the fruits to Krishna, and then ultimately, of course, you can, that's what I want to
Yeah,
say.
that's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
Prabhuji, would you like to add something?
So wonderful. Yeah, I got it. Any other questions who are sitting in the hall, temple hall and online? Yes.
Beautiful class, Mataji, Beti ji. The one point I like, which is carry home type of point, is that if you want to be a sober, or if you want to be focused, then you have to tolerate a lot. And without toleration, you cannot reach to your goal. So this is a very good point you said, and I like that one. It is a carry home point. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hey Sudarshini, I'm so proud of you. What I see in you is you are a leader. In just 14 years, what you are showing to me is a 25-year girl, or maybe 30 year, I don't know, or maybe 21, 25. I'm deeply motivated.
Okay, well, I consider that a compliment. Thank you very
I'm
much.
very proud of you.
Thank you so much. I was late, but thank you so much for this. I really wanted to ask this question for my daughters, that how will you inspire the young generation? Because I am here sitting in front of you getting inspired from you. I'm 36, from 14-year girl. So for me, it's a blessing sitting in front of you, listening to you, and getting all these inspirational thoughts. How do you inspire the young generation right now? Do you have few words to inspire them and like?
Well, certainly we should, while we do have material education, which teaches us to make a living, earn money to live, but then we also need to know how to live. And today's schooling doesn't necessarily teach that. So we should take out time to educate ourselves in this knowledge as well. Essentially because it's very necessary, so that we get to know who we are and not what society wants to make out of us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sudarshini, for a nice class.
Yeah, and Mataji, one of the lecture, Subha Vilas Prabhu, he is like a highly scholar, and he used to earn a lot. So, and he's at a bit, it's very peak of his career, and he came into ISKCON, and he want to do more preaching. Then in the interview, one person asked, despite of earning more, why you choose this? So he said one answer that inspired me. I want to share. Are you want to your life colorful, or you want to make it useful? Okay, so I chose to be useful, not colorful. That what Sudarshini said the same. You are trying to position you in the society that is maybe colorful, but it's a higher aim is useful. Maybe, yeah, I like that point. I just want to add.
Yes, thank you. Sometimes I feel distressed because I cannot control my emotions. But that I consider sometimes not a weakness, but also motivates me to further move on this path. And your class was really a nice, motivating class. So many times what happens, like we see these things are happening in life of everyone. We are not able to tolerate the happiness and distresses, right? Because situations, they come in such a way that become sometimes like you are going and you are seeing something like a big stone in front of you. Although there is a way that you you can just bypass this stone and go, but because you don't have that vision to see beyond the stones, so what you see right in front of you is just the hurdle. So to cross the hurdle is really, really hard, and that becomes most of the times we fail there. We fail there because I don't know the way. And Bhagavad Gita in this particular shlok gives us the way, the light, how to actually cross these distresses which are actually coming in our path. So a very thoughtful lecture. Thank you so much. And yeah, just some practical tips that you gave. You can add on a little bit more how to get rid of those distresses that are coming in our way.
Wait, that's a question, right? Yes.
That's the last one of the question. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't remember where exactly in between I said we can actually break our working hour, or in a sense where we tolerate. So many times when we think about the future, we become overwhelmed, and many times it's like a very not so good feeling actually. And so we can break that time, we can come look a little more in the present, look at a more manageable time which we have more control over, like say 1 day maybe, or 1 hour at least. So what we can do is say, okay, at this particular time, I will tolerate anything disturbing. And like, this is something which I have in my mind while doing japa in the morning. This particular time, I have to. And, but okay, coming back, to break our time into more manageable units is something which is very helpful. And again, when you say that there are hurdles, so we should at that time focus on our eternality, and you are bigger than your problem, and you faced many more such problems in the past, and you will in the future. So we should actually learn to prepare ourselves in that way. Does that answer your question?
Once again, thank you, Sudarshini, for the wonderful class. And it is really motivating all of us to read Bhagavad Gita and train ourselves. Thank you. Wonderful class. We are moving on to the next part of our program, Arati. Please raise. Vrajbhumi Mataji doing the Pujari service. Samanvita is doing Kirtan.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna
Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Shyam Sundar Radha Shyam Sundar Radha.
Jaya Radha Shyam Sundar Radha Shyam Sundar Radhe.
Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radha.
Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe.
Jaya Jaya
Prabhupada,
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai. Thank you. So we are going to do pranams, obeisances.
जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की। श्री श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती महाराज तिरोभाव तिथि महामहोत्सव की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की। इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद अद्वैत जय अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की। वृंदावन धाम की, मथुरा धाम की, नवद्वीप धाम की, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, गंगा माई की, यमुना माई की, भक्ति देवी की, संकीर्तन यज्ञ की, बृहद मृदंग बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की, समवेत भक्त वृंद की, गौर प्रेमानंदी, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Prahlada
Prahlada
Hiranyakashipurvakshaha.
Hiranyakashipurvakshaha.
Shilatankanakalaye.
Shilatankanakalaye.
Ito narsimha parato narsimha.
Rito Narsimha, Virto Narsimha.
Yato 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 yami tato narsimha.
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha.
Ahe narsimha hridaye narsimha.
Bahir Narsimha, Hridaye Narsimha.
Narasimhamadim charanam prapade.
Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapade.
Avakara kamalavare nakham. Adbhuta shringam. Dalita hiranyakashipu. Tanu bringam. Keshavadrita narahari rupa. Jaya jagadisha hare.
Jai Narsingadev.
Jaya jagadisha hare. Jaya jagadisha hare.
तव कर कमल वरे नखम अद्भुत श्रृंगाम दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनु भृंगाम केशव धृता नर हरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
तव कर कमल वरे नखम अद्भुत श्रृंगाम दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनु भृंगाम केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे
जय नरसिंहदेव
जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
तब कर कमल वरे नखम अद्भुत श्रृंगाम दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनु भृंगाम केशवधृता नर हरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय प्रहलाद महाराज, जय प्रहलाद महाराज, जय प्रहलाद महाराज, जय प्रहलाद महाराज।
जय जय प्रभुपाद
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 प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद।
निताय गौर हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल। की जय।
Thank you, Samanvita.